This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is brought to you by, well, no one actually. So we're on the lookout for a new sponsor, and if you're interested, you can drop us an email at ohnononopodcast@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where this Halloween we're looking back on Tuesday night as Rovers exorcise their demons by ending the Airdrie curse. We're also going to take a look ahead to Friday night's match under the lights at Starks Park against Ayr United. I'm your host, Robbie Weir, and I'm delighted firstly to be joined by Blair Hopcroft. How are you getting on, Blair?
Very well, mate. We won. It was tremendous.
It's a nice feeling.
Actually, it wasn't even tremendous, but we won.
Well, goal from open play. So we've got rid of the penalties.
It's the wee things, isn't it?
Aye, exactly. Also joined by a returning Ali Pilmer. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm very good. I've had a lifetime's worth of kimchi and I'm ready to get back to the football.
Important things in life. And certainly by no means least, we've got Scott Fleming there as well. How are you doing, Scott?
Yeah, all good. And as Blair says, I think everything feels a lot better after a win. So hopefully get another one of those tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, we'll look ahead to that after we go over Tuesday night's game against Airdrie. Well, just to go back to that pre-match, Liam Dick was suspended. Stevenson obviously comes in, as you'd expect. And then as well, you had Dylan Easton coming back to replace Lewis Jamieson. Was that quite a surprise, Ellie, to see him come straight back in, Dylan Easton, just into the team? Or do you think it was a natural choice for Neil Collins, given the impact that he can have? Were you maybe expecting him to sit out for a little bit? Or?
No, I expected him to come straight back in. I was a wee bit annoyed at the manner of his sending off, but I don't think that would have been a... Sorry, Blair. I don't think that would have been a factor.
You're in good company with Scott. You would rage it.
I think Easton is, when he's on his game, he's one of our best players. So we need a bit of magic from him sometimes, and I feel like that probably justifies him coming straight back into the squad. I don't think and he was playing out wide, which is where, with Stanton coming back in, I think the two of them link up fairly well. So yeah, I'm not surprised he came back in, and it was good to see Stevenson back in the starting lineup as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A really strong squad. I know that a lot have been made about Airdrie having about a dozen players out. This number seemed to get added on. In terms of us, Scott, just for ourselves, Ewan Murray was a bit of a noticeable absence. He's missed out the last couple of games, but photos today showed that he is back in training. Was that a bit of a concern for you, that if we're going into that position, you might have to go into Scott Brown at the back territory when you're going into games like that?
Yeah, well, obviously you've normally got the option of Liam Dick as well, but the fact that sending off kind of hampered it even more. So I think it was just as well that nobody was actually needed for that position. To be honest, we could have, whether he'll be fit enough to be in the squad tomorrow, we'll find out. But I think going into this week, I was hoping that Murray might play one of the games, because I think asking Fordyce and Hanlon to play 3 games in 6 nights or whatever it is, it's a tough ask, and especially when you're getting to what's Hanlon now, 35, something like that. So like even he might need a game just sat on the bench just to kind of rest up a bit. He might tell you it differently, but I just think when you've got 3 games in such quick succession, you want to try and keep everybody fresh and everybody on their toes. But at the end of the day, I thought we didn't play too poorly at Livy, so I was kind of happy enough with only going with just the 2 changes we went with. So no, I was fairly happy with the lineup going into it, and as Ali touched on, I think the whole Easton Stanton thing, they seem to really link up well, and I wasn't opposed to Easton coming back in. I think it was just the fact that We just needed to try and keep, I don't know, just the creativity in that sort of area of the pitch, because we've gone so much time without Stanton in that number 10 position where we've kind of struggled, as we've seen at the start of the season, with the creativity. So I think if we can keep these sort of guys fit and available, then it's only going to be a positive for us going forward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it stands to reason. Stanton came in as the number 10 last week and he got an assist. So it stands to reason that he keeps that mantle in that position there. And yeah, again, history would repeat itself. But yeah, it was good to see Dylan Easton back in the squad. Blair, just to come to you, just very quickly on this one, bit different, formational. We stayed the same. Is it time to maybe put 3 at the back on the back burner, given that we seem to be continuing with this 4-2-3-1, keeping that as the sort of standard? Do you think Neil Collins has had his decision made for him, his arm pulled in that way?
I think he has had it made for him, in the sense that Murray's obviously not fit, and so that decision kind of makes itself. I actually don't see him doing it with Dick as part of the 3. I could be wrong, but I just see it as being, if he's going to do it, I think it will be the 3 recognised centre-halves that he does it with. But actually, we were talking, and we'll probably come to the midfield a wee bit later on tonight, but I'm not entirely sure he actually needs to do it if he plays his centre midfielders in the right positions. This is maybe going to sound a little bit off, but I'm a wee bit perplexed with Burn at the moment. And where he's playing. He just seems to be playing so much further forward than he seems naturally suited to. And I think if he was actually to sit him a little bit deeper, I don't think he needs to. I've got to be honest, as far as the team on Tuesday, I think at the moment that's probably our strongest 11, actually. And I don't really see anybody that I'm kind of looking at and thinking I need to take him out to get so-and-so in. Like Gibson, absolutely I want to see coming in. But Gibson for Pollock, Gibson for Easton feels like a natural change. But it's pretty much as close to our starting 11, I think, at the moment, as what he's got, until he's got Murray fit.
Yeah. I think it goes back to that Ian Murray point about players being finishers. And just sort of like having a squad that lasts for the 90 minutes, and it's not really such a big deal when you've got players that can come off the bench and be able to impact games. More on both Byrne and Gibson later on in this podcast, of course. So yeah, we started the game, and early on, Pollock and Dabo seem to be linking up really well, Ali. And if you just want to talk us through, obviously 20 minutes in we get the first goal. Just talk us, what were your sort of impressions at the start of the game, how we performed, and if you just talk us through the first goal as well.
Yeah, generally at the start of the game, I thought we were looking all right. I think that I'd agree with Blair in that I think that probably is our strongest starting lineup, and I think we look a bit more stable, a bit less erratic. I think that's the first time that I've seen Pollock and Dabo play together, and I thought they linked up really well down that right-hand side. I think I like how Dabo pushes forward, even when the play is kind of on the other side of the pitch. He's always watching it, and he's kind of trying to edge forward, and he's looking for the link-up play. And the goal comes from his side. Good little bit of play from Pollock, plays it to Stanton, and it's just a perfect layoff. Like, yeah. I wrote down here that when I watched the replay and the highlights, that Brown knows what he's doing before he's even hit it. He doesn't even look up. He knows it's a perfect ball. He catches it well. It's such a Scott Brown finish. The way he just kind of sweeps it into that far corner. Keeper's got no chance. It's a good, well worked goal, and it's good to see Brown back amongst the goals, and 2 assists in a row for Stanton shows his worth to the team as well.
Yeah, 100%. I know that sort of during the game, just to go back to sort of Frankie Dabo, Leslie put in our group chat, he gave him the highest of praise, which is a bit like Paquito round 2, where you've got a player and you're thinking, how on earth has he ended up in Kirkcaldy playing for us, because he's so good. First half, certainly in particular, just before we got our goal, there was a ball down the wing to Pollock where it just felt like he just knew exactly where to put the ball, how much pace to put on it, the angle for it as well. a lot of the time you'll just see those head out a player can't make a run, but he's just so smart on the ball, it's incredible. To go back to Easton and or to go back to Stanton even and Brown, I think that they're arguably two of the best players in terms of the roles in the division. I think you'd be hard pressed to sort of look. I'm sure opposition teams will sort of say, no, that's not a fair statement to make. But Brown's just energy in terms of going box to box, and even we saw it particularly in Ian Murray's first season as manager, where he would be sort of arriving the edge of the box and shooting. And the only time we really saw it last season was the Dundee United game. I suppose you had the Partick game in the playoffs as well, where he scored.
Yeah.
Scott, just to come to you, 2 games, 2 assists, as Ali rightfully says, for Sam Stanton, really showing his value there, coming back into the team after a bit of a layoff.
Absolutely. I think we were obviously singing his praises last season, and we missed him massively last season when he picked up that injury just before Christmas, and we then went on that bad run, we were losing ridiculous goals and leads and stuff like that, but I think losing him kind of unsettled us a lot last season, and we weren't really the same again for most of the second half of the season. But this season, I think, Stanton obviously at the start of the season was kind of in and out of the team, picked up a couple of like really small injuries, and then we obviously had the one where he'd literally just got back and then he'd injured himself again in training, and then they had said, look, it's going to be another 6 weeks at least. So it was obviously annoying for himself, but just when you think you're getting him back, then obviously he's missing. It just extends that sort of time where we're looking to try and change our form, pick up some sort of result to try and kick on, and yet we're getting a player like him, and then it's like Vaughan's away out injured again. And so you're wondering, right, if we can get these guys back, will we be at our best? And I mean, of course, as we'll talk about the rest of the game, we weren't at our best in terms of the football, but I thought we were efficient enough over the 90 minutes. And just, I thought that Stanton, he just looks like he's slotted back in as if he's back to sort of first 6 months of last season, to be honest. Like, I thought he might be a bit sort of just trying to catch up with his sort of minutes and stuff like that. He's been managed a wee bit, because normally he would have just played 90 minutes for most games, but he's been subbed off, I think, in both games since he's been back. So I think it's right to manage his minutes, especially, again, when we've got 3 games so quickly. And then, I just hope that he can remain fit, because I would agree that he probably is. He's at least in the top 3 midfielders in the division, if somebody's not wanting to agree on him being the best, but he's definitely up there in the chat for it. So I think we're very lucky to still have him, and I just hope that he can just kick on and keep getting assists and chipping in with goals again.
Yeah,
I think you see his impact as well. I was just going to say that,
of course,
obviously the substitutions, they need to be made. As Scott said, 3 games in a week, and he's just back for injury. You can't just flog him. You've got to protect him a little bit. So obviously he comes off with 20-25 minutes to go, and you could see a real shift change in the game, actually, in terms of just the energy in our midfield and the amount of running that Scott Brown was having to do to kind of make up for the absence of Stanton, because he does. I mean, we've talked about it before, the 70% of the earth and 30% of Stanton and all that kind of stuff, but it's so true. Like, the guy just works incredibly hard, and he shuts everything down. But he's also very tidy on the ball, and he makes really good passes, and that layoff, like, and I think Scott Brown talks about it like he just knew it was perfect. But I think that's almost, you can understate it, like just how good that is to lay it into his path as he's running onto his right foot. Do you know what I mean? To have him just slot the ball without having to break stride. He's a really important player for us, actually. I quite like some of the chat online as well this week about how he's no celebrating, and is he maybe disgruntled? Sam Stanton's never celebrated. Yeah. Away in Raffle, when he scores, he celebrates. If he's not the one that scored, he'll maybe give somebody a high five and a nod and a smile. Yeah. That's all you're getting out of. Like, see, couldn't care less.
I'm saying, who cares? I'm saying it in the sense of, like, you don't need, like, all your players to be big Kevs, in the sense of, like, in front of it, giving big fist pumps and things like that. If he just wants to talk about his business, and if he's getting assists, I don't care. I really don't care. Perfect. It's just like, so long as he's he's doing fine. That's the most important thing. In terms of the other, speaking of big personalities within the team, Blair, Dylan Easton, a night which didn't go to plan, I feel, for Dylan Easton. He had the other major chance in the sort of first half. Do you think that was quite a big missed opportunity, sort of breaking through? Massive. He gets the ball edge of the box. Just talk us through that one.
Yeah, so obviously gets the ball, breaks through, basically one-on-one with the keeper, and somehow manages to not even get it on target. Like, he seems to kind of slip and lift it over. It was awful. Like, I love Dylan to bits. I think he's a really important player for us. I think he's great. And I think he'll be the first to say it. He was pish. He was really bad on Tuesday. Like, it is possibly the worst game he's played for us. So I wrote the piece in the programme this week, and we were talking, I heard I think it was Alan that had mentioned the sort of the bogey team, is it a bogey team thing? So I did a bit of research before the game about the whole Ian Murray thing, just to look at the numbers. So Murray was in charge for 6 games as Airdrie manager. He actually came in the month after we beat them 4-3. The game that Davo got sent off for the headbutt and we won 4-3. A month later, Murray comes in. He's in charge for 6 games against the Rovers. Loses 5 and draws 1. He's in charge of the Rovers for 6 games against Airdrie. Loses 5 and draws 1. That's murder. But see, after about 60 minutes, there was a bit, I turned to my mate and I was like, how many of them was Dylan Easton involved in? Like, is this maybe his hoodoo? Like, it was the same last season. I don't know what it is about Airdrie, whether it's because it's a club he's played for before, or because there's a number of the players that know him, or if it's just the fact that the manager knows him and therefore is in the ear of his players saying, look, do this, do that. These are the things that will stop him. Like, do you know what I mean? I know how good he is, but this is how to get to him. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but he didn't perform at all. The one thing I'll say in his credit, though, and a player I always said this about was Grant Anderson. So Grant Anderson was a player, and I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before, but he was a player who a lot of fans thought was a bit mince. Like, he'd work really hard, but he wasn't the most talented, or he'd make the missed passes. He was always offside, all of these kind of things that followed him around. The thing I loved about him is he never hid. So he could be having the worst game ever, and it would just keep getting worse for him because he would never hide. And I think you've got to give the same credit to Dylan Easton because, you know, like Joe Cardle was a similar kind of player to Dylan Easton. He would drift away and disappear out of games at time and you would forget he was there. Dylan Easton never stops. He's always wanting the ball. He always shows for it. He always works hard. He always puts his bit in. And it doesn't always come off. But, do you know what I mean? It is what it is. He'll want that game back. But the thing I think that will come from that is, I think he'll have his own little point to prove for himself as much as anything else. Yeah. He'll want to get that game out of his system kind of thing. So, total missed opportunity though, that shot in the first half.
I think it's a symptom of social media probably as well that he'll have had Airdrie fans giving him pelters in every single game after that, tagging him and stuff like that. Because let's be honest,
he'll love that.
And as soon as if he was to rattle that in the back of the net, you can guarantee he's straight in front of that north stand, giving it right back. But yeah, for him and Sean Byrne, for the two of them, I think that, like, again, over the piece, the performances, they weren't like the usual high standards that we expect, but at the same time, like, it's just part and parcel of football. Not everyone's going to have the perfect game, and some games you have where performances where everyone steps up and everything goes smoothly. And it's part and parcel, like you say, at Dylan Easton's game, that he tries to take people on, he doesn't hide, and he does try and go forward. And some nights it just works really, really well for him. Like, you think back to, for instance, the Aki's game at home. Like, he just was continually going forward. Or the Falkirk game in particular. The Falkirk game was probably the best example, where we put out like a 2-minute highlight reel of him just dancing about with the ball. They couldn't get near him, but he tried that the other night, and it wasn't working for him. So, totally. We go into the second half, Ali. Bit of a recurring pattern where sort of Rovers start a bit on the back foot into the second half. What did you make of that, just in terms of, is that something that you were a bit worried would happen given the sort of recurrence of this over our last few games?
I mean, yeah, I was worried. Anytime the Rovers are a goal up, I'm worried. I thought, to be fair to Airdrie, they brought on the young lad, Terrell Aguiman, who's the boy on loan from Middlesbrough, and they stuck him in the middle of the park, and I thought that made a difference because I thought he was putting his foot on the ball and just calming things down from their perspective. and I don't think we reacted too well to that. So they kind of allowed him to come back. But it was kind of it was the same when it was at Livy, and we started well, looked good, began to fizzle out, looked like we needed half time, and then didn't come out firing and looking for that second goal. So I was a bit annoyed, I was a bit frustrated, but I do think that Airdrie bringing on the young lad did make a difference from their perspective. They reacted to the fact that we were the much better team, and we were the better team in the first half, I thought.
Yeah. Very shortly.
Can I just...
of course.
Sorry, just really quickly. I'm going to disagree slightly. I am with you completely, Ali, on the overall point. But actually, for once, I thought we did come out firing. See the first, and I mean, it was such a short window of time, but it was like 6 or 7 minutes where they were, like, the Rovers actually came out firing. They were shutting things down. Jack Hamilton was running. They were kind of really pressing. And it actually made it look worse, I thought, because the drop-off was so much more... normally you've got that 15-minute window of they were pretty decent, like you say, starting to tire. They come out and they don't quite get going. But they went at them, and then it just stopped.
Yeah, it certainly changed very quickly. And the major next point I've got down here was a penalty shout for Airdrie. So, Scott, do you want to incense some Airdrie fans? Are you going to dismiss that as being complete nonsense, that we get out of jail? We've had some ridiculous decisions go against us recently, so was that maybe a bit of a fortune going in our favour for once?
I mean, I think when just watching it on Rafe TV, first time, even when it went back to the highlights, I thought it was a penalty at first. Like, I was just like, because his arm was like well away from his body, and I just thought, if the referee's seen this is going to be given. But then it, like, obviously a few seconds go by, I was like, well, the referee's clearly either not seen it or just thinks it's not. Watching it back in the highlights, it's one of these ones, I think it probably is actually, I think it might even be given with like VAR. Like, it's one of these ones, because his arm's in an unusual position, it's away from his body. That's what kind of is making the referee have to make a decision basically on it. Whereas, yeah, we've seen some ridiculous penalties given this season, and we've seen ones that should have been given that haven't been given. And so, right now, to be honest, every game you're going in thinking there could be a penalty in this game. Just the fact that the referees they're never consistent, and we know that going into every game that no ref is the same. So, like, it just genuinely could be given for the sake of the fact that this ref thinks it is. But I think if I was not a fan of one of these teams, just look at the game, I think I would be shouting for it. I'm not going to lie. I genuinely think I'm leaning towards it should have been more than I'm saying it's not, just purely the fact that his arm's out. And when you watch it more and more with the slow-mos and the different angles, I do think that we maybe got away with one.
The point about the angles is one that is pretty important to talk about, because see, when I saw the highlights and you see the camera angle that's behind the goals, I was thinking, it looks like he's got it sort of upper chest, like towards his arm. Like, there's not really much you can do in that way. See, when you see the inside match day one, I was like, oh, that's a bit different. That's a wee bit more harder to justify. And I'm chatting away with an Airdrie fan on WhatsApp, and he's like, oh, I was screaming for it in my living room. And I'm like, yeah, right, okay, maybe. But not that I said that to him. I was like, nah, clearly not a penalty. Absolutely not. No chance. And we've had some rotten luck recently. So, anyone of any other opinions on that one? Or Blair?
Nah, I must admit, in real time, we're obviously South Stand, so we're quite a way away from it. You couldn't quite see how far his arm was from his body. It did look like one of those, when I was there on the night, I didn't really worry, because I thought it looks like it's just kind of come at him and his hands are down.
Yeah.
But when you actually see his hands away from his body kind of thing, it's and he kind of moves towards it. So it probably, by the letter of the law, is a penalty. But get around them, I'm all right with it.
Of course, the magnanimous nature that we've got on this podcast strikes again. I think it also helped as well that I think that his vision was probably partially blocked as well by one of our players. So I'm not sure who it was, but maybe we just need to keep doing that, just blocking the
We
referee off.
assisted somebody, just stand in front of the referee.
Exactly. Ali, just to come back to you, the next sort of major incident was Reece Armstrong, middle of the pitch, as Rovers were breaking free. What did you make of that one? He was given a yellow card. Do you think there was anything more in that, or very, very?
Nah, I think a yellow's fine. I think a yellow's fine. It's a late tackle. It's cynical. He definitely should get a booking. He's definitely being a bit of a prick. But if one of our boys did that and got sent off, I'd be a bit annoyed. I just book him, give him a bollocking, and get on with the game. I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a red for me, but maybe other people will disagree.
Well, no, I'm agreed.
We'll park the referee of it all for now, and we'll come back to it in a wee bit. 66th minute, Blair Rovers make a triple change. How much do you think that impacted the game in terms of? I know that we sort of spoke about it before that we're needing to make these subs because obviously guys like Hamilton and Stanton are needing a bit of respite if we've got a big game coming up tomorrow. But yeah, just your thoughts on it, and just as well, just a bit of a word about Sean Byrne as well, just in terms of his game, because I think that it was quite a difficult night for him as well. Just the role that he's been used in. Do you think that's sort of symptomatic? And Niels Collins maybe asking for a bit of a higher press?
I think it is. I think he's it's a bit of a square peg round hole kind of situation with Sean Byrne for me. I described him the other night, we were talking about this in the group chat, and I kind of describe him as a wait and pounce midfielder. Like, you've got those guys who go and run at folk, like Scott Brown, Ross Matthews to a lesser extent, Sam Stanton, who go and chase things and get in your face and shut you down. Sean Byrne, to me, is the guy who waits and waits and waits for your touch and then just takes the ball off you. He doesn't need... And actually, there was a couple of times where he came running out and he just looked a bit stupid because he'd run straight past the ball or he'd run past the man, somebody would sidestep him. It doesn't seem to suit his game. He's a real kind of... I think he's quite a cultured kind of midfielder, and he just needs to be used in that role. I have to say, I know we'll probably kind of come full circle on this, but I was quite impressed with Airdrie, actually. I have to say, given that they're in the position that they're in. The boys at Armstrong that's playing in the midfield, he came for Spartans, I think.
Yeah.
He was decent, but the split in their centre halves, pretty much the entire game, their centre halves were so far apart, and he drops into the middle, so it becomes almost like that back three. And for me, I'm like, that's the role Sean Byrne should be playing. Dropping in, sitting in that hole, go and let Scott Brown and Sam Stanton run about all night. Let them get on with the game. And actually just destroy anything that looks good, and then just start creating and release the ball onto the players that kind of can do the damage. I don't really think we're using him in the right way at the moment, which I don't think brings the best out of him. And I'm not sure it brings the best out of the centre halves either, actually, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you actually brought up that point about Armstrong, because I actually think he's playing the role that Reece McCabe was playing last season, where he was dropping in. And because
Very
McCabe's
much.
not in the team, he's went, I need somebody that's going to do that role for me, because that's just the way that McCabe seems to play. So I think he seems to have found a pretty decent replacement. As you say, I think when we went to play them first day of the season, I was like, who's this boy they've got for Spartans? And then he started in that game as well. I thought, he actually looks all right for somebody that's jumped up, 2 divisions. And it wasn't like a player that everybody you would hear was screaming about at Spartans. That obviously, it's the usual Blair Henderson scoring goals, and then obviously you had the likes of McNulty making a return to Scottish football and going to Spartans. But then when you heard about Armstrong, you were just like, well, I suppose we'll see how good he is. But he seems to have filled in that McCabe spot, because McCabe's been injured pretty much most of the season. So I think, he seems to have found a good replacement.
Yeah, it's like the lad McDonald. He's obviously had a lot less exposure at senior football, but he came in from East Kilbride, and he was the goal scorer in the game at their place, I think, in the first match. He was missing. They're obviously missing quite a lot of players, and probably from an Airdrie perspective, they'll take a bit of confidence in that as to how well they actually did to sort of restrict us given the circumstances.
They definitely didn't play like a team that was missing. I think it was 11. Was it 11 first-team players that
I
are
think
out
it was
for
about.
them?
I don't know about first team players, but certainly it was 10 players overall, and
10 overall.
and then you've got like 2 or 3 16-year-olds on the bench.
Yeah, I was told it
Credit
was
where
like,
it's due, like.
I was told it was like 4 of their under-18s team were on the bench last night.
You know what I'm going to say to that? Long may it continue.
Well, we've all been there,
well.
so
Aye, exactly.
I genuinely thought, like, you know how we've been doing this thing about how we are on a bit of a hard luck run or whatever. Like, we're not necessarily playing badly, but we're not getting the results or whatever. I was listening. It's funny because I listened to the preview pod and I struggled to get through it in time before the game. So I'd listened to the actual preview section of it after the game. So I'd listened to that today and listening to Les and the other guys talking about Airdrie and basing it just on what we know about them, which is they're sitting bottom of the league and they're getting beat off pretty much everybody. You assume that they're a bit shit. And actually, I didn't think they were. I thought they were actually all right. They take what we've been doing to an extreme. They look tidy, they do nice stuff, and they create absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing for 90 minutes, other than that one save that Kev made late on. And it's just like, they're I don't know, I don't know how they're where they are. But then nobody seems to be beating them by big goals. It's all one goal here and one goal there.
Look at the boy up front for them as well that they signed for Northern Ireland, was banging them in left, right and centre all pre-season, all League Cup. Got to the first day of the season, he's not even scored in the league. Not once.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it's as you say, Blair, I know Leslie made that point, like, nobody's hammering Airdrie, that's the thing.
No.
I think that if you look at the way that the momentum's going at the moment in the league, and again, this will probably bite me on the harsh big style, but it feels like Morton are on a downward trajectory, and obviously we've leapfrogged them, but they seem to be going through, like, they're really suffering because they've not invested much into their squad. They've got about 9 forwards, but they don't have it in other positions, which seems to be really hampering them. So they lost against Queen's Park. Zach Rudden with a goal for that one, so cheers for that one, Zach. Just to come to the end of the game there, Ali, to save you from shaking your head, just talk us through that big Kev save at the end, because to be honest, Airdrie had a lot of the ball, weren't creating very much. Rovers fans getting a bit nervous, there was sort of limited opportunities. We brought off, Pollock came off and was replaced by Josh Mullen, and then Jameson came on to replace Easton later on after that. But other than that, very, very sparse in the way of chances for either side. Airdrie just dominating the ball, Rovers sitting in. So just talk us through that big Kev save at the end and just what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I thought it kind of came about because we were sitting back a wee bit too deep in spells, and that was one of the periods where we were being a wee bit too negative. But actually, the ball in from the boy Bruce is a good one because he plays it, he sees the run of Ben Wilson coming across diagonally. Our defence don't. I think if you look at it, I think Hanlon gets caught completely flat-footed. So it's a great wee dink ball in, and all Wilson, from his perspective, all he needs to do is help it on. But Kev is, as ever, he's on his toes and he reads it well and he gets down well for the big man. So it's just a great save. It's the kind of save you just take it for granted with Kev, but it's a good one. But to be fair to Airdrie, it was a nice wee ball in, and Wilson, you could see afterwards, he thought he'd scored when he got a touch on it. Yeah.
Blair, we're going to put you on your soapbox. You wanted to have a chance to speak about Kev, and a bit of a defence for the big man.
I mean, given that I'm the one that called him a no-footed goalie last year, like I feel a bit hypocritical, but I feel like there's a bit of a reality check almost needed. Like, so that save for me is ridiculous. His whole body is going one way, and he gets down for the size of him to get down and make that save, not just to get a hand to it, but he gets the ball away from goal. Most goalies, I think, even if they touch that, are palming that back into the melee, and anything happens at that point. So yeah, Kev's going to cost us points occasionally. He's going to have games like at the weekend there, the first goal, where he's not quite doing what he should be doing or whatever. But I kind of look at it and I go, right, so he's a shot stopper of the highest quality that we could ask for. Like, you could not ask for better. And I like the analogy that Duncan used when he was talking about Davy McGurn, and how McGurn was a great shot stopper but couldn't come off his line, right? But if Kev could come off his line, confidently every single time and never make a mistake, and if Kev could kick the ball superbly well every time and never make a mistake, he wouldn't play for us. Like, I don't get why. Like, it's this thing about we want him to be an international goalkeeper playing in the Championship. Like, he's going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. And I just think there has to be a bit of a... I mean, the talk about, can we get McNeil in? Do we need to get McNeil in? I still think, and I could be wrong, I think it's mental that we're even having that conversation. Because he basically saved us 2 points there. Because for all intents and purposes, that should have went in. They get a point, and we got to draw out the game. So there's 2 points in the Kev column. Like, TX Rover or somebody needs to start keeping a wee spreadsheet of...
Oh, he's already on it.
I know, but I'm meaning specifically Big Kev points for and points against, because I'm pretty sure he is plus. He can he not be?
Yeah, I think that... see with Kev, I think it meant... There was that moment in the first half where there was a ball into the box, and he just came, and he grabbed it confidently, and he just, like, straight away, you could just tell, like, everyone's just like, right, that was brilliant. Keep doing that. He turns around after the ball's been distributed and he's like, cheers. And like, you can tell it's just, that's the sort of thing. Just...
It matters to him.
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
important.
so we with another bit of my rant, I'm sorry, I'm keep going. We get these moments in games, right, where Hanlon makes a mistake or whatever. And folk are genuinely, I'm hearing people in the stands saying, oh, he's maybe worried about Kev. Shut. Like, come on. The guy's got 500 Premier League games or whatever he's got, international caps. There's no way that he's nervous about what his goalie's doing behind him, and that's why he's not covering things. Fordyce misses the header at the weekend. There was twice on Tuesday night where there was passes back to Kev that were abysmal. One for Fordyce, and I think the other one was from Hanlon, actually. I think it was one each. Passes back to Kev, and Kev comes out and deals with them. And one of them, he takes a sore one. He takes an absolute battering off the forward because the two of them come together as he clears the ball away. And he just gets up and gets on with it. And nobody gives him any credit for it. Nobody says anything. But when he misses a chance or he kicks a ball out, you get the groans. And I'm just like, can we just give the guy a bit of love? Let's love him a bit more.
That's an important point. And I know that, like, if anything happens tomorrow night where there's an error, like, you know what it's going to be, the reaction's going to be, and probably myself and yourself, Blair, will take pelters about it. Not that we care about it. But it's one of those things where I think you can see how much of a confidence player Kev is. And you reap the rewards of that if you sort of foster it. I think he's a really, really positive goalie in terms of what he does, and that, like yourself, I think that he's picked us up so many points over the last year. So I'm willing to stick with him. I can understand people that take the opposite opinion, though, in terms of where it's at. But just for me, I think you've just got a really, really good goalkeeper in there. It's just about making sure that we get the best out of him. And I don't think it really helps things to be speculating about, like, oh, so-and-so doesn't trust him or things like that. I just feel like it's just stuff like that self-fulfilling for me. So yeah, we reach full time. 1-0. Airdrie Hoodoo in the bin. We move up to 7th.
Turns out it was Ian Murray all along.
It was indeed. So sorry about that, Ian. We left the fingers in the ears after the derbies, but less about the Airdrie games. That was not good. 2 points that I really want to cover off next. Just I want to get the thoughts. Just Scott, if you can just give us your thoughts on the game in terms of the result. So how big is that for us to get that sort of first win where we've managed to get a goal from open play, a 1-0 win, moves us up the table. Just your thoughts on it, just in terms of a result for being able to move. Do you think that that's something we could? We've been in this position twice before, where we've had wins at Starks and we've not been able to build on them. Do you think that now that we've got these players back, that we're just in terms of the performance, do you think we can kick on now?
I really hope so. It's like we've been here 3 times in home games where we went this is it now. We've got to win. They 2 games were 1-0 penalty wins, but this one, at least we've, as we said, scored for open play. We were, like, I would say, marginally the better side on the night, but, like, I think just in terms of the guys, they just needed a win, whatever way they got it. I think Neil Collins said it in his interview after the game. He said, I was not leaving this ground without 3 points tonight. He says, whatever way we needed to do it, we were doing it. So, and at this stage, when you're down there, it doesn't matter if you play brilliant or if you play shit. As long as you get 3 points, that's all that matters right now. So I think, and I'll be the exact same mentality going in tomorrow. I couldn't care less if Ayr have about 30 shots, but we win 1-0. Like that, I don't care. We just, right now, until we start catching up the sort of teams around the playoffs above us, that's when you then go, well, it would be nice if we can start playing good football as well. But at the end of the day, it's results that matter. So, as I say, you can keep the 1-0 scrappy, rubbish results coming if that's the way it's going to go.
We'll come on to this in a wee bit. Blair, just for you, do you think that that's quite an important factor to mention? That Scott sort of mentioned that there. That sort of, almost to go back to last season. The first half of last season was all built on single goal victories late on. Now, obviously, this wasn't a late goal; it was early in the first half that we got a goal. But just, do you think it's important to remember that like the foundations of a season can be sort of built on stuff like that? Those are the games that can maybe separate yourself from the sort of teams at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a funny league. Like, every team seems to be able to get results against. I mean, Dunfermline beating Livingston 3-0. Do you know what I mean? Every team can get results against every other team. So it doesn't seem to matter what you do or what everybody else is doing, I should say. Because everybody else is going to beat everybody else or draw. Like, you can't almost bank on the other results. You have to massively focus on what you're doing. I still think that we're a good side. I still think that we've got the potential to be moving up the table. I do think there's a few things missing in terms of the goal scoring still. But it's a big 3 points because it's not just... and I know it's daft, but they had our number last year. And I think if you're going to win a game that's going to put a bit of confidence into that squad, it's got to be the team that, when we were second in the league, nearly winning the league, we couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
We could not beat them for love nor money. And actually, we can now. So maybe we're actually okay and maybe we can kind of push on. But momentum's huge in this league. And 3 games in a week can be the worst week of your... We said it last week. It could be the worst week of your life, but it could be the best week of your life. Do you know what I mean? If you get another win. 6 points out of 9 would be tremendous. It would be a great return from those three games. And
just Ali, for yourself, just looking ahead, just with the result and how things panned out on Tuesday night, how big a sort of statement do you think that is? And just being able to sort of move forward. We've got this Friday night game, and then obviously everyone else will play on Saturday. What were your thoughts on it, just as a result rather than the performance?
Yeah, I mean, it was a must-win game. In terms of you were playing bottom of the league and our confidence has been shot. I think the game tomorrow night, the Ayr game, is a real litmus test for us. It'll tell us, I kind of feel like it'll show us what sort of season we'll have, because if we can't back it up with a performance or a result, are we sort of showing that we're good enough to pull out the occasional win to keep our heads above the water, but we're not good enough to compete with the top teams in the league? If we come out and have a really good performance, get a win, I really feel like we can kick on. So in a way, I'm almost more interested in this game than I was Tuesday night. Tuesday night was just like Scott said, get the win, get the 3 points, no matter what happens in the 90 minutes, get out of jail. And now I want to see a bit of progress. I want to see a sign of where we're going under Neil Collins. Otherwise, if we lose again, and it's another frustrating afternoon, you're kind of back to square one, sort of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Yeah. So this one, I think, is a real proving ground. And we've played them twice already this season too, and we've been twice. So.
Well, we've certainly got a point to prove after those 2 games. It was, you mentioned obviously the teams that have played above us. I think that, to be honest, I think you could argue that other than the games against Ayr, we could have very well be in a position where Queen's Park, they got a very late goal. Livingston, I think the 2 games against us, people have left there saying, how on earth did Livingston get their wins in both of those games? I think the performance against the teams up the top generally has been very good. It's just that we have been let down in other games. But yeah, as
Here
well,
as
just
well, to be
results
fair,
wise.
I was down at Somerset for that first. Actually, I was down at Somerset for them both, but in that first one in particular, we matched them, and even with 10 men, we matched them. I mean, we got the red card, they got the penalty, so they were a goal ahead, and then they effectively caught us on the break when we were pushing for an equaliser. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that they ran us ragged or we didn't compete. And actually, that's the one thing I keep coming back to and I keep clinging to, is that there's nobody, actually, annoyingly, with the exception of Dunfermline, there is nobody who's actually kind of properly outplayed us. Maybe Morton in the second half, actually, to be fair, they did. But we've competed with everybody. Like, we're just not scoring enough goals. That's it.
I would even the Dunfermline game, you caveat it that before they actually got their first goal, it was 10 men, and it took a deflection to get them off the mark. I think that this is why I've always been of the opinion, like, caveating a lot of the stuff. And I know that we've had a lot of disagreements with other people and within this podcast about, like, where we're at. However, what I do want to talk about is the performance on Tuesday night. So I feel like there was a real separation between the result and the performance, just in the sense that the result was very, very good. Get some distance between ourselves and Airdrie. We're still ahead of Dunfermline, who got a very good win against Livingston, and we overtook Morton, who's seeming a bit of a difficulty. I think that performance in the first half, I think, was good. I think that generally we were going forward. We didn't create many chances, but then we were still sort of looking on the front foot. But then that second half, I just think there's something about this. And looking back, I was sort of saying this elsewhere, that if you look back at Rovers since Ian Murray's first team, you need to go back outside the teams that are down the bottom of the league that you would expect us to beat. And even then, there's no guarantees that we'll beat them. We've only sort of thumped Cove and we thumped Arbroath. Other than that, we've really struggled to sort of put the boot on the neck of any other teams. Outside of maybe the Partick game where we beat them 3-0, and that was pretty much 2 years ago to the day. So I just wanted to check, just for you, Scott, what did you make of the performance side of things, just in terms of the game? Obviously, there was a real mixed bag in terms of, there was players, like we've mentioned before, sort of Dylan Easton, Sean Byrne, without sort of, we're not by any means suggesting they're terrible players, but the performances were maybe below what we would expect of them. So just what did you make in terms of the performance overall, and how important is it to sort of try and see if we can move into fostering this over a 90 minutes rather than just sort of looking in terms of 45? And has it been a bit critical, because we did keep a clean sheet as well? What were your sort of thoughts on things in terms of the performance?
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I thought first half, we controlled a good chunk of the first half, and we created the better chances out of the two teams as well. So I think we just deservedly edged it in the first half and got the goal, and it was a good goal at that. But yeah, it is. I do find it really worrying going into the second half that it just seems to be a thing that it's just hung around for quite a few seasons now. That especially that 46 to 60 minutes, that seems to be a proper drop off a lot of the time. I know that obviously Blair had said like the first 5-6 minutes of the first half on Tuesday, they looked like they were pressing really well and they were kind of up and at them sort of thing. But I don't know, it just seems to be like I said the biggest one was under Collins was his first game when we went 2-0 up at Ayr in the Challenge Cup. And in the second half, it almost just looked like the players were knackered for the first half of doing like such high pressing and constant at it, but they were doing it so effectively. Like Ayr couldn't even get out the first half of that game, but then it was almost it just genuinely just watching the game looked like we were knackered for trying it basically. But then I don't think that was the case on Tuesday night. I just think I don't know. It really is hard to put your finger on it, because I'm sure Collins is scratching his head thinking the same thing. Like, why is it something that he's saying? He's like, I can't be demotivating my players at half time, surely. Like, there's something just, yeah, I think the whole fan base is wondering what's going on, because it can't just keep going on, because you see teams coming out against us and going and score, like Morton and stuff like that. They're scoring within sort of 20 minutes of that the restart, and you're going, well, why are we not able to do that? Like, when have we've maybe scored, I think, once or twice straight after half-time, but then it's been to go 2-0 up, and then we still don't win the game? Like, it's...
Do you not think it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, though? Like, it's, as the game starts to turn, they get nervous. You can see Collins on the sideline going mental, trying to get them out, trying to push them up. Because no manager's going, right, boys, we're 1-0 up, there's 60 minutes to go, let's sit in and see how we get on. Like, and no manager is doing that. Even Dougie Imrie's not doing that, maybe.
See,
I just think it's like the nerves kick in.
Just to come in very quickly, I just want to say as well, it's not on the part of a lack of effort for the players as well.
Totally.
Like, but carry on.
No, totally. It's that thing of when the nerves kick in, it's like we're on this run and we keep losing late goals. Oh no, we're 1-0 up, there's 20 minutes to go, let's no lose another late. And like, there's no, like, it's human nature. You can't, we're all thinking it. We're all literally all sitting in the stand thinking it. Ali talked about it at the beginning. As soon as you come out the second half, you're thinking, here we go, like, it's coming. You can't not feel it. The players have to be feeling it too.
Well,
like, it's just...
if we're thinking that, the opposition are thinking that, and they know that they can get at us.
Exactly.
And then it almost, like you say, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. It compounds itself because we start sitting back and teams go, all right, okay.
Totally.
And from what I've seen so far this season, we seem to have good spells in a game, maybe go 1-0 up, fizzle out a bit, and we're not great at wrestling it back and getting the momentum back. And I feel like teams are kind of like, that's it, that's all they've got. They're not going to come back at us.
There's two scenarios that might play out tomorrow evening. We come out for the second half and we batter 3 goals past them, and one of the players is tagging us, telling us just to be quiet. Totally. Or Ayr come out and absolutely batter us at the start of the second half, and we're like, well, what's going on here?
The thing is, like, see, I was just going to say, just last on Tuesday night, because you asked me originally about the triple sub, and I never actually talked about it. I think he had to make those subs because we've got another game in 3 days' time. You've got to keep your important players fresh. I do think that I'm going to say the Callum Smith of it kind of killed us a little bit. I don't think he added an awful lot. Unfortunately, it wasn't, again, his best performance in a Rovers jersey either. Hamilton had been particularly good for me, had been particularly busy again. Really impressed with him the last few weeks.
He's came on that game under Neil Collins, by the way.
He really has. But the subs just flattened us a little bit, losing Stanton and losing Hamilton. And it's a difficult thing because he's got such a big bench. He's got such a big squad now in terms, it's not big squad, but in terms of fit players, he's got enough players to fill the bench and some. And so you've only got 3 opportunities to make substitutions. You've got 5 subs. You want to probably use your 5 subs. So actually a triple sub early on is relatively sensible in the sense that you get 3 of your substitutions made in one go. It leaves you 2 more in case there's an injury or whatever. You're not leaving yourself short. But a triple sub kills the momentum. It's you watch international friendlies or even like testimonials and stuff, and it's sub after sub after sub, and it just is like, oh my God, can I go home? And that triple sub for me just killed the momentum of us. But I get why he did it. It was the right thing to do, but it definitely made that a bit more of a challenge in the last 20 minutes. Well,
one player that did get very glowing references off of Neil Collins for his patience and his character, and a player I think it seems the fan base were quite united in terms of seeing back on the pitch. Lewis Gibson came back in. He put in a very sort of assured performance, and as I say, Neil Collins, if you listen to both his post-match and pre-match interview, speaks about his character, just his willingness to sort of wait it, given that he's had to be very patient to get back into the team. Just Ali, just give us your thoughts on sort of how he's done coming back in, being able to add to the team, and do you think it's a real sort of statement of intent that with the depth that we've got that we can sort of afford to wait before bringing him back in?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit strange he hadn't been in recently, but it was great when he came on and they interviewed him at half time and he was talking about just keep his head down, working away, put a shift in. And I think that he's more direct than most of the players that come off the bench, and I liked it. I liked how sharp he looked when he did come on. So it's a good option to have. And I thought the fact that Neil Collins sort of flagged it and praised it was very telling. Fair play to the kid. He's a young guy, but he seems to have a good professionalism about him. And, and
100%.
I hope that he does get more opportunities, because we were talking about the subs, Blair, and how like sometimes we bring on the likes of Smith and Jameson, and at times Connolly this season, and it's kind of neutered us. It's kind of been more of the same. There is a directness to what Lewis Gibson does that I don't think the other players have, and he can change it up a bit. So I'm pleased to see him back, and I want to see more of him, to be honest.
I think that we're likely to see more of him. It'll be very intriguing as to what happens with the sort of decision moving forward in terms of the starters. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think that naturally that fans are going to gravitate towards that type of player as well. And I think that it can be difficult to sort of see things from a manager's perspective as to why he maybe uses other options, but there will be reasons for it. It's just that, I think that it gave, I think those interviews gave Neil Collins a bit of a chance to articulate what his sort of thinking was behind it. And I suppose from a sort of player's perspective, it's pretty difficult as well to sort of see that. You see others getting opportunities, you might find that you get a bit frustrated, but again, that's a discussion for within the club. Just to round off the Airdrie game, because it's been going on far too long. Shouts for man of the match. Blair, have you got a man of the match for that one that stood out for you?
Dylan Easton. Nah, not at all. Probably Scott Brown. Actually, I know he got the goal, but I thought his all-round play actually the whole game. He was a real driving force. I would the other kind of special mention I suppose I would give is actually Finlay Pollock, a player I've been impressed with, but I've not been massively sold on. I was beginning to worry that he was going to be one of these lone players who isn't quite into it. Like, you get those players that come and really, really put themselves about and stuff, and you get the ones that come just to get a bit of experience and go back to their parent club. But I have to say, on the right side rather than the left, what a difference. Mm-hmm. He's a player who likes to drive and likes to get to the byline, but he's clearly better with his right foot than what he is with his left foot. And the confidence that he has when he's putting that cross in with his right foot, as opposed to when he's on the left and trying to cut in or trying to cut across. I thought there was a real difference in him, actually. I was really impressed with him on Tuesday night.
Scott, you were nodding your head away with mentions of Scott Brown there for man of the match. Is he your pick, or have you got anyone else?
Yeah, I thought Bruni was man of the match, and he got given it, I'm sure, by the sponsors as well. So I wouldn't really have any arguments. I thought, quite rightly, to mention, Blair mentioned Pollock as well. I just thought, to be honest, you could have even thrown Dargo in. I thought the full right-hand side was really good, especially in the first half. But it's certainly, obviously, when we go on to talk about the Ayr game, it's certainly, I think, I wouldn't be changing that right-hand side going into, unless, obviously, one of them's maybe got like a niggle or whatever, but I think if they're fully fit, I would keep that right-hand side together, because I thought that the two of them linked up really well. And I think they're both, I know that, I don't know if you can really call a fullback direct, but like Dabo is more direct. He likes to get at his opposition sort of fullback and kind of pin his winger back sort of thing as well. But no, I thought them three in particular were pretty good on Tuesday night.
Yeah. And Ali, anyone else for you that you want to mention?
No, I mean, Scott Brown, he got the goal. He was back in sort of his best role for us, where he's driving forward and carrying the ball 20, 30 yards, bringing everybody else into the game. So like, he was the best player on the pitch. And again, I was going to mention Finlay Pollock. I haven't seen too much of him because I've been away, but I was impressed. I think he links up quite well with Hamilton too. I think they're bringing out the best of each other, and that's good, because I think Hamilton needs that. He needs players that are going to be a bit more direct and get up there and support him. So yeah, Pollock was really good, but Brown was deservedly man of the match.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you'd be hard pressed to argue against that. I would also give an honourable mention as well to Sam Stanton. I thought that he had a really strong performance. An opinion that apparently wasn't shared on Twitter. Someone saying that they didn't think they had a good game at all. But again, everyone's got their own opinions. We'll move on to tomorrow night. Ayr United come to town under the new bright illuminated main stand of Starks Park. It looked very nice actually coming in. Good to see that up for the first time. So yeah, Scott Brown's there. We've had 2 1-0 wins at home before, obviously, just again hoping to be able to change that. One sort of point that I wanted to just sort of pick up on is both teams in the same sort of vein of form going into this over the last 5. So they're 2 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses. Blair, what are your thoughts on Ayr United, given that you seem to love clipping you out for sound bites?
Your bubble has burst. There you go,
Somerset Bob.
Like they're clearly a good side. Like there's no getting away from it. He's built a decent side in there, and they're obviously missing Dowd, and are going to be out. He's going to be out for the season, so they definitely lack a little bit of firepower where that's concerned, and that's clearly had an impact on them. I think it'll be an interesting game. I actually really enjoyed both the games down at Somerset, other than the result in both cases and the red card. I thought the red card really spoiled the first game because it was actually quite a good contest. Like I say, we matched them pretty well. And in the second game, we outplayed them in the first half. And to be fair, they outplayed us for 20 minutes or so in the second half and managed to score 3 more goals than in that time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, actually. I have to say, I think it'll be interesting to see how much of a change Collins makes to the team, because I don't think he will. I think it's one of those things, having a big squad and making changes and stuff is great when you're in form and you're playing against a team that you know you're going to win. But when you're needing wins, you need your best players on the park, and you need to ask those boys to step up. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
That was a point I was actually going to make. Just, I think that I was going to mention it before, but see lads like Kai Montague that are on the bench, I think that it creates a bit of a difficult situation for guys like that, because obviously if you are sort of pressing on and you win a game a bit more comfortably, it gives you an opportunity to get him into the team. So it's really unfortunate from his perspective, I guess. Scott, just to come to you next, just as Blair said, how important do you think depth will be for this one in terms of the squad? 3 games in 6 days. Debatable according to Pie and Bovril. There's a whole thread going on there that's breaking down, people try to break down whether it's 7 days or 6 days, which I am not entering that nonsense. Just for you, how important is the depth on this one going into this match?
Right, it's massive. I mean, can you imagine what we would have been like about a month ago if we had this? Like, it would have been a nightmare, 3 games inside a week, and you've got what? We were at one point, kind of like Airdrie, just hoping to fill the bench at one point, because we had quite a few boys out injured and suspended and whatever. So, it's a problem that every manager welcomes, basically. It's basically everybody just fights at their spot now. So it's what you want. It's competition in every single position across the park now. So I think... I mean, he mentions it now and again, but training must be pretty good, I would say now. The fact that everybody's competing for shirts and everybody wants to play. So I can imagine that even from time to time it might get a bit heated and stuff, probably because they're just trying to show and prove that they're ready to go whenever the manager is called for them to get called upon. But I think going into this one, Ayr are a bit funny, like you say. Recently, they've not been all guns blazing basically since Dowd went down injured, but at the same time,
they've still got... Say it. Something about a bubble. You just need to say it.
That's not my saying to say, so. But I do think...
No, it's Livy's, to be fair, it's Livy's bubbles that's burst now, because the Pars have beat them, so Livy fans can clip away.
I think going into this one, though, I still think they've got a lot of attacking threat when you look at the likes of Henderson out wide. Actually, the new boy that they signed, obviously, after he left Salford, Conor McLennan, who's been in the Premiership before, he's actually seemed to have been all right straight away, and he's played 90 minutes both times. And I thought he would be kind of like Dargo in terms of hadn't found the club, probably needing to work his minutes up, but he's played the full game every time. So, and from what I've read, he seems to be doing all right as well. So I think he'll be one to kind of keep an eye on. And obviously George Oakley's their sort of out and out number 9 right now, and if he gets sort of the space in the box and the time to do what he needs to do, then we know that he can stick the ball away as well. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. Obviously, they've had the full week as normal pretty much to prepare for us. And Scott Brown obviously got to see what we were about on Tuesday night. But I do think I think just that win, I would have been really worried going into this game if we hadn't won against the Airdrie, because I think just heads might have been down a wee bit. I think then Ayr then probably puffed their chest out even more, going, we're coming into a wounded team here that are still trying to find wins. But I think now we'll probably have a little bit more of a spring in our step, and I can see us hopefully getting something out the game, whether it's a draw or a win.
And I think that it would be a huge sort of statement if we can get a win, just to sort of, we've obviously had the performance against Falkirk where we did really, really well. We got the win, albeit via penalty, and you're hoping that lays down a marker. Ali, what have you sort of made of Ayr United so far? And just, how are you feeling about this game coming ahead?
I think Ayr are a pretty good side. I think they recruited well in the summer. I mean, Scott Brown is a decent manager. They knock the ball about pretty well. I think I was also down at Somerset for both games. I've seen them twice. I think they certainly deserved, on the balance of it, to win the first one, even though they were aided by that red card. And then in the second half of the second game, when we kind of ran out of steam and shut down, they punished us. I think they'll be confident coming into this. They've seen a lot of us. And I think that the thing that makes me nervous is we haven't backed up a win really yet this season. So I don't know what Rovers team are going to turn up. I would probably take a point. But I would also kind of like to see us come out and have a proper goal, because, like Blair said, the first 45 minutes at Somerset in the cup was probably the best we've played all season, really. If we can replicate that and sustain it, which has been our issue so far, then we'll give it a damn good go anyway.
You just need to replicate it twice tomorrow night, first half and second half. That would be
brilliant.
It's actually funny. I was just having a look back at their results. See, their last 6 games, it pretty much mirrors our form. So you have a look. I've just lost it now that I've actually just said that. But in terms of the games that they've won and drawn and lost and stuff. So they beat Airdrie 1-0.
Yeah.
They lost 2-1 to Livy. This sounds familiar. The only ones that are reversed, they got beat 2-0 by Falkirk and beat Morton 1-0 at home with a penalty. We did it the other way around. They drew 1-1 with Queen's Park. So you go right the way back. They're basically the same results as what we've had. I don't honestly think there's an awful lot between these two teams, other than the 16 points or so that's between these two teams.
It's now only 10.
Is it only 10, is it?
Yeah.
You're missing out. That bubble's bursting in slow motion. No, it's famous last words here, but I think that I would like to think that our squad's stronger now that we've got the likes of Stanton's fully fit. You've got Dargo in as well, who's made a huge difference. You've got Finlay Pollock, who's been added to the team as well, and then Chuck and Scott Brown. I mean, I don't think we had any of them down at... I know Stanton played, but we didn't have any of those the last time that we played them. And certainly for Dargo, Stanton and Brown, Pollock's been very impressive as well. I think that they can make a huge difference. So yeah, I'll just if we just move on just quickly, has anyone got lineups for this one written up? Or
I can, yeah.
I have.
I'll let you go first, Blair.
Same team as Tuesday.
Okay, nice and easy. Ali?
Genuinely, I'm not changing a thing.
Yeah, Blair beat me to it. I'm not changing a thing either. I think actually, and I'll justify it slightly. I think when he made the triple change just after the hour mark on Tuesday night, and he took off Burns, Stanton, and Hamilton, I think it's because he was saving exactly people's legs for exactly that. I think he was intended on playing pretty much the same team.
Yeah.
Scott, are you of the same opinion, or have you got a lineup that's any changes made?
I would not argue with with keeping it the same. I think the same thing. I thought it was a very strong lineup, and it is arguably probably on paper our best team. I think if you were wanting to make a change or just to see, is possibly put Gibson in for the start just to give him a chance. If that was the case, just because I'd like to see it, I've put him in for Dylan Easton purely if you've got two direct players on each side. I think both fullbacks will be on. Oh God, we're in for some night tonight. Because I think Ayr have got the same in terms of Jay Henderson's pretty direct as well. So I think if we can get somebody like a Gibson on one side and Pollock on the other side, it probably also means that guys like Henderson or Jamie Murphy or whoever's on the wide positions need to actually think about helping their fullback more than just attacking constantly. So
Yeah.
I think if we can do something like that as well, then that would be good. But I wouldn't be opposed to just keeping it the same either. I think the fact that we looked more solid overall, I think I fully expect them to keep the same team. I was just doing it for something different.
See to expand on that, I know that I think it was it McAllister that was playing left back. Gibson gave him a torrid time down. McAllister or Redden, I forget which one. They were hyping up Nick McAllister something fierce because of Graham's comments last time around. But McMahon's going to be back in for this one, so I think that's an interesting addition for them. A very experienced player he won the league last season, very good for Dundee United. So, but they seem to be perennial changers of their keeper. Like, it's just a very weird situation where they've got about 5 keepers on them. Yeah, something daft like that. Not that I pay too much of the attention on the inner workings of Ayr United. Any predictions for this one? Blair, you want to kick us off?
You
sure?
Nah, well, I don't know. I want to say 1-0 Rovers, but I do kind of feel like it's got a draw written all over it, if I'm being totally honest. But I'll stick my neck on the line. 3-0 Wraith.
Oh, jeez.
We'll take it. I'll go for the same. Jack Hamilton, perfect hat-trick. We'll take it. Because the only reason I'm saying that is because I got told in the comments last time that apparently I'm not allowed to make predictions anymore or name my goal scorer. So I've got complete faith in Big Jack. He's going to destroy them. It's going to be great. Very enjoyable.
He's another one that's not played Ayr, actually.
Aye.
Yeah.
Scott, you got a prediction for this one?
I'm trying to remember what I went with my prediction thing online, but
I'm the same.
I think
mine is completely different.
I'm sure I went a score draw, so I'll go. I'll stick with that. I'll say 2-2. I think I think it actually could be quite an entertaining game. I think the fact that we probably want to play better than we did on Tuesday night in terms of performance, so we'll be out to prove a point, and Ayr will just be looking to try and get sort of back to the form that they were in at the start of the season. So I think it actually could be a pretty decent game. So I'll go 2-2.
And Ali?
Yeah, I said I'd take a score draw, and I think it will be. I went for, I'll go for 1-1. I think on the predictor I went for a score draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think both teams are fairly evenly matched. If it's a draw and our performance looks a lot better, I'll be relatively happy going forward.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a poor performance and we lose, then we're back to square one.
Yeah, it's certainly an intriguing dynamic that's going to be playing out there in terms of can we kick on. That's really the big question for us. Scott, I believe that you've prepared a Should McStay or Should Dargo. Do you want to crack that out for us? Or?
I have, yes, and just to let you know, it'll be the most bland clues ever. I have got no creativity compared to Les or yourself, Robbie, with some of the clues that we've been coming away with. And I don't play Scrabble, so there's no danger of anything like this coming out. So,
Man's got to be man.
Right, well, if yous are ready, the first clue is I have played for 5 different clubs in Scotland.
Rules out Liam Buchanan.
Eddie
5.
Malone.
Just before he gets...
He's not done it in a while.
I haven't actually. I was because I was saving it for when it's actually going to be Eddie Malone. 5 clubs in Scotland. I'll go Bobby Sloan.
Yeah.
I'll go for Ross Callahan.
Okay. On to clue 2. I am taller than 6 foot.
Eddie Malone
Not
can't
Bobby
be taller
Sloan.
than 6 foot.
Mark Campbell.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Well, going by that, I think anybody over 6 foot's a good shout.
Aye, that's true. 6 clubs in Scotland. What are the 6s?
5 clubs in Scotland.
5 clubs
No,
in
5
Scotland.
clubs.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm taking so long to guess on this, because it's like very...
As I say, it's just straight. It's very easy sort of guessing clues, I would say.
Gareth Wardlaw.
Okay.
Is he over 6 foot?
I don't know, I'm just taking a punt.
I'm sticking with Callahan.
Right, no worries. Clue 3. I spent 4 seasons with the Rovers, and according to the site that I took it from with the stats, scoring 0 goals.
So he's a defender. Oh, actually, it could be a goalie. Nah, he's not going to do that. He's not going to mention. He's not going to mention that. 4 seasons, 0 goals. It's definitely not Mark Campbell because I have seen him score.
That Derby goal, oh, that was a classic. The New Year's Derby, just bullet header after he came back from injury. Talk about
Beautiful.
perfect.
Beautiful. Four seasons, no goals. That could be Sean Byrne in a couple of years.
Just needs to start shooting. It's 4 seasons. Has he even had a
He
shot?
just needs more
See,
seasons because he's
if Sean Byrne
yeah, he's
scores
never
the
gonna
winner,
score.
Ross.
Oh, I think everybody will go ballistic if he even scores a goal.
Aye.
Doesn't matter. To be fair, if he gets a shot on target, it's a start. So
defenders that have never scored.
Now all I can think of is goalkeepers because Blair's mentioned it.
Aye.
Actually, it might be a shout.
I'll go Kevin Cuthbert.
Oh, I was just about to think.
thinking the same thing. Because it's no Jammer. He's definitely
Aye.
no 6 foot. It's no David McGurn. Ross Laidlaw.
yeah,
I don't think he's played for 5 clubs though, to be fair.
Aye.
Rovers, Hibs, Ross County.
Did we loan him out?
Well, maybe.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to stick
I
with
don't think
Gareth
we did,
Wardlaw
'cause he
just
played
because
young
I didn't
for
want
us.
to.
you
didn't
stick
want
him
to
in the same,
dash it
Robbie.
a bit, lads. Aye, might as well. I know that he scored as well, but just
No worries. Okay, clue 4. Out of the 4 professional leagues in Scotland, I've played in 3 of them.
5 clubs, 6 foot, 4 seasons, 0 goals, 3 leagues.
See, I've said this before. You call these bland, Scott, but see, without an era, I need something to signpost a
But
time.
I didn't want to
I
put
need
an era in quickly because I know that eras it kind
I
of
need
then gets an
Yeah.
early guess in, and it usually
Aye.
Yeah.
When somebody gets it quite early.
Which is why a good John McGlynn clue is good, because you dick in which era it's from.
It's funny because you think all these players and then you just remember the goals that they've scored. Like I'm thinking, Frankie
totally.
Masonda. I remember him scoring. It's not that he played across the 3 leagues, but
I'm going to stick, but I'm less convinced.
it's funny just looking back at how stupid that Gareth Wardlaw one was after 4 seasons with 0 goals. We spent like 1 season with us. That's the power of Should McStay or Should Dargo for you folks.
Especially when you're actually doing it live and not able to pause it.
Aye.
Oh, totally.
No,
we'll stick with Ross Laidlaw. I'm not convinced.
I'm going to have to wait for the next clue.
You still not got another name, no?
No.
Right. What about you, Blair?
I'll stick with Ross Laidlaw. I'm not convinced it is, but I've nothing better to offer.
Okay. Clue 5. I've been capped at under 21s and national team level.
What's up?
Chris, I don't know if he spent that long with us though, but Christoph Berra, he wasn't 4 seasons, was he?
No, not even
Would
close.
there have been 5 clubs as well? Aye.
No. I shouldn't do this because I'm helping you all, but he's never said he's Scottish.
Aye, that's true.
That's the other thing that crossed my mind.
If he's international caps, he's no Scottish, because the number of Rovers players with international caps is very, very small. Very small. Four seasons, though. See, I actually was, when you started going through that, I thought, oh, do you know what? It could be Ross Laidlaw. And then you said international caps. I'm like, nah.
I can't think of
Jeez,
definitely not.
Right.
So go and say that full clue again, Scott, because it was more than just the international caps.
Yeah, he's been capped at under 21s and first team. Full international.
Under 21 and first.
No.
What I will say is that if you don't get on this one, I hope you get on the next one because I've not got more than 6 clues. So.
Yeah, I kind of slyly thought Cuthbert was a decent shout, and now I'm absolutely snookered.
It's the 4 seasons bit that's getting me. Like, I'm struggling to think of anyone that's been at the club for that long that's been internationally capped. And for under 21s as well. Who's not scored any goals. And who's 6 foot and has 5 clubs. Basically, the whole clues are just killing me. I just can't think of this player. That's all I can.
Internationally capped. We must be going back a bit. See, there's a wee bit of me now thinking he's sitting wearing that T-shirt and it's the anniversary of that game in Munich. Would he go back as far?
The only one that's jumping out for me for that game was, Tony Rougier, but like he's not
He definitely
played.
scored.
He definitely scored, but also as well the 3 leagues in Scotland, was it?
Yeah, 3 leagues in Scotland.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant one, by the way, Scott. Like, I'm
Well,
getting
it is, it's
tortured
the
here, but it's
international
really,
cap.
really
when it
good.
comes to like these clues, the way I look at it is like I feel like it gives you options for so many players. Whereas like when you throw in like a Scrabble clue about players' names and everything, you're just going, well, it has to be somebody with a long name. And then you're just,
I still think it's a keeper, but I can't think of an internationally capped keeper.
No.
I'll go Guido van de Kamp, but I don't think he played for the Dutch.
That's where I was at as well. Yeah, I don't think he ever.
I'm not going
was
to
ever
pull another
capped.
name out though, so I'll go for it.
Right, we're going to move on to the next clue.
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
David Bates.
okay.
Never been capped for Scotland, actually. He's 21
He's
caps.
got 4 caps, 3 or 4 caps for Scotland. He played in Kazakhstan that night in Kazakhstan. Yeah.
So he did.
you might. I think that's actually right. He's nodding his head. Scott's nodding his head there, so I'll just wait for the next clue, but I think Blair's got it.
He would have been about it for
Okay.
4 seasons, though.
You'd be surprised.
I hope you get it with this clue because, as I say, it's the only last clue I've got. I have played in 4 different countries during my career, and I'm born in Kirkcaldy.
Yeah, it's David Bates.
Well done, Blair. It's,
It is the
I'm
David.
saying well done, Blair. I've not even waited.
Now, see, when I look back at making these clues, I actually think the 4 seasons was probably being quite cheeky because he only actually made 15 appearances for us. But it was well, it might throw a few years off by saying 4 seasons.
Aye.
Just the fact that because he was obviously loaned
It
out
was
to
wide.
Beacon as well.
Yeah. It was so wide open, and then as soon as you said international caps,
Yeah.
it's like, whoop, narrows it right down.
Aye.
You just have to rack your brain.
But you
trying to
went the
think
way
of
that I
who's had
wanted
a
you to
cap.
go, which is, he's probably no Scottish. I was like, good, go that way, keep going that way.
It's funny when you're doing the clues. It's funny because you just become really, really devious. You're like, I just want to send them on a wild goose chase. The worst thing is when it's like within like the first 2 or 3, and you're like, no,
Right.
and you're trying to throw people off.
Totally.
No, that was really, really, really good, Scott. Really enjoyed
That
that.
was good.
Aye. Okay, that will round us up for this evening. So thank you for taking the time to listen. And we will no doubt be back post Ayr United with a full debrief for that one. So fingers crossed that we're coming back to review a win against the burst bubble that is Ayr United. And I love how much we are just kicking the arse out of that, by the way. I'm just going to say that. Like, just it's a podcast.
And just for the
takes
record,
opinions.
there's only one Bob that matters to this podcast.
Oh, aye.
There's only one.
And he knows exactly who he is. Anyway,
Hi, Bob.
down in Somerset, I hope that you have a lovely evening. But thank you for your time. Somerset, the English county as opposed to the road. And thank you for listening. Bye for now.